So I'm not gonna. We're gonna complete the setup after I explain the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a deck building game. So it operates a lot like most deck building games. So we all have a starter deck that have the same exact cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's 6 different cards, but 2 copies of each. There are 2 different types of cards. Let me just dig them out. Unless we get all minions. We get all minions. All right. So we're gonna use this to teach you guys. There are 2 different types of cards, and they're based on their borders. I'm not going to talk too much about it yet because I'm going to go through all the rules, but within the cards that we get, which I think they call these cards orders.
Yeah.
You're getting orders, you're giving orders, which kind of makes sense because some of us will be using the same cards against each other and it's the same character name. So what you kind of want to figure is you're just giving, or that guy is giving orders for people to kind of attack different factions and that kind of thing, because it's weird if you have the same guy attacking the same guy, and it will happen. Minions are all in black, so if you notice every card you have is all in black. If you notice this part's in black. Orders, well not orders, actions, which is another type of order, has a silver border. And believe it or not, it actually shows up on the screen with the daylight lamps. The black border is kind of dark. When we play this game, when we set up the game, as we play cards, we're going to need to tell the viewers what they have, obviously, because they cannot see this text. So this is normal for us, so this isn't new, so I don't know why I have to bring it up, but I'm just going to because that's what I do. I'm going to talk about the prep phase later, but some of the things to think about is, you know, in deck building games you have essentially a store, buy piles.
Right.
They call these archives in this game. There's a community archive, which will be in the middle of the table. Everyone can buy from those. We will also have our own 2 unique archives that only we can buy from. I don't believe there's any cards that allow you to take. There are cards that let you steal. You don't actually buy them, though. I think you just steal them. No, you buy them. You buy them. But for the most part, in general action, when you are buying, you will either buy from your personal archive or from the community archive. You will not purchase from other folks' archives unless you have a card that allows you to. I believe it's a kicker effect or a chain effect.
I think it's a chain effect.
But there might be some cards that we get in the game, and they may not even come up in this game, that allow you to buy from other personal archives, but just be aware, most of the time you're not going to. And so we have our decks, we have our draw pile, our discard pile. The rule for shuffling your deck is the same as any other deck builder. As you're drawing, if you can't draw, then you stop, you shuffle, and you draw. So you do have to go through all of your cards before you draw again. The neat thing about this game, I really love this game. I wish they were still supporting it. I still don't even have all the expansions. I think there's 3 that I'm missing. I think there's. Correct me if I'm wrong, viewers. Please, somebody who watches this, hopefully somebody who owns this game, watches this. But I think there's the base game plus 5 expansions. I think I have 2 of them. I have a total of 3 different. There's a ton of cards just in there. There's so much playability just in the base game. But there's some really cool stuff. Like they have I think they have like a Russian one, like a Russian setting, and just neat stuff. And AEG just makes good deck builders anyway. And so I bought this kind of on a whim, and I did not realize it was kind of being phased out. It's not completely being phased out. They still have like they do demo games and stuff, but I don't think they're making any more expansions. I eventually will own all of this game, because it's neat. The mechanic of this is very unique, and I'm surprised somebody hasn't copied this mechanic in another game. You'll see what I mean. Eminent Domain almost does it. Almost does it. Where you're chaining effects off of other cards. This one lets you do like massive combinations. It's so much fun. So the different types of decks that we have are our draw deck, we have our archives, and then we have the wound deck. Now, we're going to be damaging each other throughout this game. In fact, you have to if you have minions out. You don't get to choose to attack people, you have to attack people. I think you get to choose who, but when you get attacked, if you take the damage, you will get wounds. At the end of the game, and this is kind of a timer, when we run out of wound cards, we're going to end up getting to that part of it, which will be the end of the game. When we get to the end of the game, we're going to go through our discard piles and our draw deck. We're basically going to go through our deck and count our wounds. The one with the most wounds loses. The least wounds, wins. Let me say that the other way. The one with the least wounds wins. And I don't know if there's tiebreakers. I believe there might be.
I think it goes off the type. Does this one have the different types of wounds? Or is that
yes.
Then it goes off.
It goes by like bite or something. Yeah, that's okay. I remember because that's what happened between me and I think not me.
Someone in
Steve and CJ, Shane and CJ. So we were talking about the stacks of the archives. This is going to sound weird because there's some types of cards that are friendly and sometimes they're not. And it is important based on the cards that are or the abilities listed on your cards. So your private archives, the minions that you control in front of you, the orders that you play, so that includes your actions and any new minions that you put out, and any game text on those cards are considered friendly to you.
Okay.
Private archives, minions, orders, and game text belonging to other players is considered opposing.
Mm-hmm.
Archives in the common area are neither friendly or opposing, because they don't belong to anybody. But the way they kind of do this is individual cards stacked in any archive. I'm sorry, whether it's private or active. I'm sorry, bleh. If it's private or an opposing private or the community, they don't belong to anybody yet, so those don't count as friendly or opposing. But your private archives, like the whole archive itself, is considered friendly.
Okay.
And then a person's private archive is considered opposing.
So
Not the individual cards, but on the whole. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why that makes any sense at all is some of these abilities will target specific cards in an archive, and some might target the archive itself. And so that's why you need to know. So your individual cards are nothing to you, but the whole archive is a friendly thing to you, if that makes sense. Okay. Individual cards in Beth's archive aren't friendly or are opposing to me. They're not friendly. Yeah. But the whole archive is neither friendly or opposing. So you can't affect an entire archive of something. It's kind of what you're saying.
Like if you play a card that says destroy all of this selected card in all archives, you ignore your archive because it is friendly to you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we would say like opposing archives.
Yes. But if it's targeting a specific card, you could potentially hurt your archive because your specific cards. Yeah. Well, actually, it wouldn't.
No,
because they're neither. Yeah, sorry, they're neither. It'll make more sense when we actually look at the cards, but the reason why, and we can look back at this at friendly opposing if we need to, we never really had any confusing cards. But there can be cards that are confusing because they're so specific in their targeting, that you actually need to know 100% whether it's friendly or opposing. So if we do need to revisit that, we will, but I wanted to bring it up. Now there's two different types of order cards, just two, actions and minions. So I'm going to talk about the actions first, and those have the silver border. And this actually shows up on camera, so I don't have to flag the. I don't have to do that.
But you do it anyway.
I know.
Used to.
If you notice, there's 3 little moons on the top here. On your, if you notice, our starting cards only have 2 moons. But most cards, the more advanced cards, these are the basic crap cards, basically. These are junk cards you're going to use and get rid of as quickly as possible so that you can get the good cards. The good cards, all of them, have 3 moons. The larger moon is what the color of the card is. So this is a yellow card. It doesn't look yellow in any way, shape, or form. It is a yellow card. Well, that's always going to be yellow. That's the cost. Cost is always yellow. But notice this is a white card. So white, yellow. The 2 mini moons are the colors, the link colors. I know. Stop. Stop. Right now. I just made him choke on Doritos with one little unintended. Anyway, so the mini moons. These are your link colors. Okay. This will make sense when I talk about chaining, but these are colors that can be used in a chain combination if the primary color is that. If it matches one of the link colors. And then you notice these cards both have a moon on the bottom. That's a kicker bonus, and that also has something to do with chains. We're going to talk about that when we talk about chains. But you need cards in this color to gain the kicker bonus, or that has to be in the chain or something like that. I'll double check because it's been a while since I've played this game.
When we get the kicker, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and kicker is part of chain. So, so there's lots of things cards can do during the chain. This, of course, is the title of the card. This is what it costs to buy the card from the wherever, if it's in the community pile. Okay, and this is the text of what the card itself does on the top. The bottom, sometimes it will say chain bonus, but sometimes it won't. Sometimes it'll say kicker. Down the bottom is your kicker, usually. So hopefully that makes sense. So cost to claim, what they do, possible kicker bonuses in a chain, color of the card, link bonus colors, or link colors, name of the card. Okay. The other thing to keep track of is on your minions, they also have health. So this starts at 3 health. The top is your highest amount. As you take damage, you turn it. So, for example, this one starts at 3. When he takes damage, he turns to 2. If he takes damage again, he turns to 1. If he gets to here, he dies. Make sense? So that's kind of the basics about the order cards. When you claim a card, when you spend this cost, we'll talk about how you get the money for that, but when you claim, I think it's influence, it's called influence in this. When you spend it and gain the card, it goes to your discard pile like any other deck builder. That happens anytime you gain a card from private or communal, it goes to your discard pile. You don't get to use it right away. And then you'll also notice that some of these cards will have things like that say in play or chain or things like that. Or your chain. If it starts with chain, and that happens for both minions and actions, it means that that power goes off anytime that card is part of a chain, regardless of who started the chain. It just has to be part of a chain. If it says your chain, it will only work if you're the one who started the chain, meaning it's your turn, basically, and you start the chain. If it says in play, which only appears on minions, what that means is that takes place as soon as the minion is put in play. It basically takes place, I'm sorry, after the card is resolved and the minion is played, because there might be some chain stuff that happens first. We already talked about the health on minions. They will always kind of attack. Your starting minions are these guys. They cost nothing to claim because we get them. But you'll also notice that their in play says exile when destroyed or discarded. So what that means is you might destroy them to get a benefit. They get removed from the game. Just put them aside somewhere away from your discard pile. Also, if you finish a turn with them and they get discarded because they took damage or what have you, they get removed from the game. These have only one use usually. So you want to be careful about when you use them and what you use them for and how you use them, because anytime they were to have gone to the discard pile, they'll be removed from the game. Does that make sense? Which is nice, because it's not like other games where you have to try to find a way to get rid of the crap cards. You use them, you get your benefits, and then you have better cards, hopefully, that you've replaced them with. Now, some order cards require you to choose a specific player, minion, archive, wound, or order in the chain that's affected. The game text will always use the word target. However, you never target cards in your hand or your deck, so you're only targeting stuff that's in play or possibly a player that's specific. Well, really, you don't really hit a player specifically. You hit minions, and then those minions might carry wounds to your deck. Cards that require no choice, for example, damage all opposing minions, do not target individual minions or players. Any card effects that alter or prevent targeting do not affect these cards. Does that make sense? Simultaneous events. Typically, nothing happens simultaneously in this game. Though sometimes you might have actions that appear to occur at the same time. If multiple events happen at once, and they seem to be going off at the same time. Because again, sometimes cards go against the rules a bit. If that happens, the players whose card triggered the event, and the reason why it's important because it could be in a chain, so whoever's card actually triggered the event, they choose the order in which those two events resolve. So they may actually want your card to go off first, as opposed to their own, what have you. They get to pick. So, and for example, and also if a card inflicts damage to every player, they can choose the order in which the players take that damage, because that could remove them from the round. So be aware, you get to pick everything about that, how it affects. Now, in the turn, you have 4 phases. You have the combat phase, the chain phase, the claim phase, and the cleanup phase. Combat is when you have minions in play already. So you played on a previous turn, you had some minions. They must attack other players. After the attacks are resolved, you discard your minions from play. They're gone. So that happens first. So if in the previous turn I had this minion out, he's going to attack someone. I pick who. He does the attack, and then he's gone. I don't get to use him again next turn until I play him again. Does that make sense? Then there's the chain phase, which you can create a chain of orders by playing a card. So remember, your minions attack first, then you play your card, and possibly linking it to other cards. Once you're finished, your opponents may extend your chain by adding their own cards. I'm going to talk more about how to create chains, but what that means is if I play a card, and I have a card in my hand that would legally be able to chain, I can actually play more than one card. I could play my whole hand if I had enough of, and it made sense, and I could link, I could play it out. Then we move around, like if I was the first player, we'd go to Aaron, and he'd get to choose whether he wants to chain off that. Then you would get to choose, and you would get to choose. Then we resolve the chain in reverse order. So whoever played last, their effect goes off first until we get back to me. So that's the basics of chains. We're going to talk about the details of how you set them up and how the powers work. But it always starts with the current player. So you are allowed to chain off yourself. Just be aware of that. You can play more than one card a turn. If you can't chain, then you can only play one card. In order to play multiple cards a turn, you must be able to chain. Then you go to the claim phase, and that's when you acquire cards from the common pool or from your personal archive or private archive by spending the influence that you earned based on your previous card play. There are cards that will give you influence, and that's how you buy stuff. You can only purchase... Actually, I think it doesn't matter. You can purchase from both. If you have enough influence, I think you can purchase from both commons and private in the same turn.
I believe so.
I will double check, because I can't remember if you have to choose which section you purchase from, but I don't think it matters. Once you've claimed your cards, of course, they go to your discard pile. And then in the cleanup phase, you draw cards. You have to draw cards. And you may resolve one wound effect. So if you have a wound in your hand, what that means... for example, if I have this card in my hand, it's sucking up my hand. So during my cleanup phase, I can discard all wounds from my hand and draw 2 cards for each wound, limit 1 wound effect per turn. That's what this one has. Each one has text. I do have the martial law expansion wounds in here, so there may be, you don't want to assume they all say the same thing. Most of them will. If it says martial law at the top, it probably has different special text on here with better stuff that you can do. And you don't have to worry about like the bleed type, the burn type. You don't have to worry about that until the end of the game. This is what you want to talk about, how you get rid of your wounds. So you can resolve 1 wound effect if you happen to have a wound card in your hand. And then once you've completed, your turn ends and it goes to the other player. So we're going to talk about combat real quick, because that's the first part of the phase. If you have any minions, of course, they have to attack other minions. Each minion attacks one of your opponents. You can send multiple minions against the same opponent or divide your minions among opponents as you see fit. You must send all of your attackers at once. Once all of your attackers are assigned, resolve each combat in the order that you choose, because you initiated it. So if the defender has minions in play, he can assign 1 or more of them to block the attacking minions. A blocking minion can only block a single attacking minion, so it's card for card. So if I come after Aaron with these 2, and he only has 1, he picks which one he's going to defend against. Each attacking minion now afflicts damage equal to its strength, and that's what this red number is up in the corner. So this is what it costs to buy them. This is the amount of damage they do. So this guy does 2, he does 3. If the attacking minion was blocked, the damage is first inflicted to the blocking minion. We already talked about you just turn them. So if I did 3 damage to this guy, it would actually kill him. But no damage would carry over to Aaron because he blocked it. Or I blocked it, you know. So, if there are multiple blocking minions, the defender chooses the order in which the blocking minions take damage. So if he had 2 minions, for example, he can say, all right, this one's going to die first, then maybe that one. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference unless there's special effects that those minions have. But he, as a defender, gets to choose which one takes the damage first. If he only has 1 minion, it doesn't matter. We always do the minion first. 1 minion must absorb as much damage as possible, i.e. until all damage is absorbed or the minion is destroyed before the next blocking minion takes any damage. The defending player receives 1 wound for each point of damage that is not absorbed by attacking minions. So does that make sense? And then, whoops, hang on.
Are there turn reference cards or anything for this? No.
No. No, it's most of the stuff is going to be, you'll see, it's actually pretty easy. Okay. So I missed part of this rule. A blocking minion may only block a single attacking minion, however, multiple minions may gang up to block the same attacking minion.
So you can spread the damage.
That's right, yeah.
If you have if he had 2 of these and you attacked with him, both of those could block and at least block 2 of the damage.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, you have the power to soak multiple. Like if it's.
It's just weird because it says a blocking minion can only block a single attacking minion.
Yes.
However, multiple minions may gang up to block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It almost contradicts itself.
It's like, instead of using him for an example, if I had 3 2-wound minions, I can have them all gang up on him and then have all of them just take one.
So it's literally saying if you have
all or
one,
nothing.
If you have 1 minion, that 1 minion can only block 1 attacker. But
That's okay. That makes sense.
You can block.
So even if he attacked you with 2 of these and you only had this one, even though he could attack both, he can't absorb both.
That's right. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, why is that? That confused me for a second. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Welcome, bro.
And then when you take damage, when you actually do take damage and not your minions, then you just draw wound cards and put them in your discard pile, equal to the amount of damage that you took. Now you can. There's a thing in here that says blocking direct damage because of that bad smoke guy, that werewolf.
Yeah.
So there's a small number of minions, such as bad smoke, that have an in-play ability that allows them to block damage inflicted directly on the player who controls them. It's like a special ability. They don't even have to jump out. This includes damage from chain effects and damage that gets past blocking minions after resolving attacks. These minions have an in-play text that says this card blocks damage inflicted on you. If you have one of these minions in play, when a card inflicts damage to you, the minion must block it just like it was blocking an attacking minion. So it could potentially kill him, but at the same, you used him. Actually, I think you used him a lot.
I used both the ones I had.
Yep.
I mean, you really can't use them a lot because they disappear once you use them.
Yeah. So one of the neat things about that character is he can block minions that are attacking you, but also if you're getting nailed by chain effects, he can block that, which is technically something minions can't do.
Right.
That's what makes Bad Smoke such a badass card. The only thing it won't block, though, is if you receive wounds as a card effect. So as you're using a card and it says you receive a wound because of using that card, or somebody use a card that causes everyone else to receive a wound, if it specifically says that, then they don't block it.
Damage, you're just
it's not an inflicted
wound.
wound. Yeah. So just be aware of that.
An old wound just happened to bring up.
And then after the damage is resolved by all of your attacking minions, you must discard them. They get discarded, all of them. Actually, all of your minions in play, even ones that didn't attack, which I don't think there's any that have the option. Isn't there one guy?
Bad Smoke can stay out regardless, but otherwise...
Yeah.
But Bad Smoke can't attack.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he has no damage.
But after your combat phase, he essentially would get discarded as well. I think it's
Bad Smoke says he stays in play until destroyed.
But is Bad Smoke... Oh, Bad Smoke is a minion, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is typically once all your minions have that combat phase is over, all of your minions get discarded. So if you have another minion that normally wouldn't combat, or you can have a choice of combat or to do something else, they still get discarded. Which is painful sometimes. Now, here's how you chain cards. Once you get out of the combat phase, you've discarded your minions and you now can play a card. The way you form a chain is, one or more cards are played in sequence. You can play one card from your hand for free without restriction. That's called starting a chain. Sometimes you can start a chain and nobody chains off you. It's one card. It's a one-card chain. And then you can add more cards as long as the card color matches one of these link colors. Now, when I say that, what that means is I would not be able to chain this card to this, even though red is in here, because that's a link color.
Right, not the actual primary.
The big moon has to match.
The big moon has to match one of the link colors.
I could chain this guy, because the big moon matches one of the mini moons. Does that make sense for chaining? And you can keep doing that. You can do that with as many cards as you have, as long as you have the chain, like the actual proper colors. Your primary color of your card matches these little link colors. It does not match this one. The main color of this card does not matter in a chain, unless you're the one playing the card down into the chain. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you can add more cards, and of course each card must link to the last one. And when we do a chain, the best thing to do is when you play your cards, just do that. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to throw your cards at me. So if I'm playing it and Aaron wants to do a chain, in front of him, he's going to just do that. So we know everybody has a chain.
Now, so here's the question. When you're starting a chain, can you immediately play your cards, or do you play one and then other people get to chain and then you
play them all?
You have to do all of yours
at once.
Yeah. Okay. So if I say this is me and that's all I got, and Aaron has 3 cards, he can go 1, 2, 3. We'll pretend these are legal. And he can do that. He's not going to put them on my cards though. He's going to put them in front of himself like that.
So they can move
in. And that way we just know who's participating in the chain.
Okay.
We know that I started it because we'll use this as the first player token. We'll use this die. We'll just pass it around. So we know I started the chain. So if you're the last one to play, we know we're going to go in reverse order who's got 45-degree angle cards. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Which means now that
so, just so that I understand correctly, that would mean that like if you're, when you play your minions, you can either play them as minions or you can play them for like a chain effect, or is it all the same?
They're still part of the minion. They're going to go in front of you afterwards.
Okay.
They become in play because you put them as part of a chain.
I see.
The only way to get a minion in play is to chain them.
Okay.
Now, granted, it might just be that my first card is this. That's all I got. But that's how I get them in play.
Okay.
So if you have a way of chaining multiple minions, you can get multiple minions on the board in one turn. How did we play around last time?
Because me and CJ were chaining off each other multiple times. Like, he would play a card, I chained off it, he chained off a card I played, I chained off his card.
Like, back and forth? No, I thought you did it right.
No,
I thought you did it in a whole...
No.
Yeah, because I could have sworn we did it that way.
Maybe a few times, but then they'd stop being that way.
It's so long.
So basically, whatever you play, if you can chain, you chain there, and then you're done.
Yeah. That was a hectic day. Anyway, we had like 5 homeless people there. We bought them all those pizzas.
Yeah, we were playing with both Shane and CJ, and
a bunch of kids that were homeless. It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
We were like, there was enough leftover pizza for each one of them to take a pizza back with them.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was neat. Okay, so and of course you have to. This is exactly what Aaron just explained. You can only link a card to the most recently played card in the chain. You can't jump over other cards that were played earlier.
Right.
So you always go with whatever the most recent one is, and so you play your cards out kind of in a row. Let me make sure.
So just as an FYI, all of our starting cards will only chain with themselves.
Pretty much.
Essentially,
yeah. We will get some mega chains going though eventually.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm not. That wasn't my point. Wasn't that we won't ever get a chain.
It's gonna
my
be
point was just that I'm keeping.
So it's hard to get
keeping
chains
it simple at the
start.
It's
hard to get big chains at the start.
So how exactly do we gain influence? Because
we haven't got that
some
one
of
yet.
Okay. Well, I mean, some of them do. I saw that.
I'm assuming we start with some as well every turn. I think it's like.
I think you start with 2 every turn.
Okay. So I was gonna say because it doesn't seem like a lot of minions gave them to you. Or
no, they don't. But you'll also in the community pool you're gonna get minions that give influence too.
So
my thought process was just if you don't get any influence at all, how do you buy cards? Because there seems like there's an opportunity.
We haven't gotten that far.
Yeah.
Now, if you do not play any cards during your chain phase or of your turn, or there is no chain and no one else can. Wait a minute. What does it say? If you do not play any cards during the chain phase... Oh, of your turn, there is no chain, and no one else can build their own chain.
Okay.
So it has to be started by someone. So if I have nothing good to play, I could not play.
Yeah.
And that means nobody gets chain.
Yeah. Off of your turn.
Correct. Yeah. And then once all players have either linked cards to their chain or passed an opportunity to do so, all cards played in the chain are resolved, starting with the last card and ending with the first. So it literally goes in reverse order. Which kind of makes sense. And then trying to find out where kickers. Here we go. Most orders have kicker text at the bottom. That's what that color is. If you link an order directly from a card of the color shown next to the kicker text, you must also resolve the kicker when the card resolves in the chain. So I'll give you an example. I hope that we can do. Nope.
Well, you can always use a blue card from your hand. From your starter deck.
Oh, I was thinking, of course, everything is... Oh, yeah, good point. I see what you're saying. This one doesn't work either. We're just going to pretend that... Well, no, that's not going to help. Thank you.
Because I couldn't even have the opportunity to kick, do they?
They do.
You can't
so, well, no...
You're just going to use the kicker instead of the real chain.
Well, no, you have to be able to still chain them. So, this one will do it.
How does that make any sense?
Why
would there be a blue kicker and no blue link possible?
They're possible. I'm just not going to go through every single card. But essentially what's going to happen, I'll use the example that they have. They've got a yellow primary card with green and white as the links. Okay, nobody's going to see that, so we're just going to say... So the primary card is yellow here, and then it has green and white. And then they played a white card, right? Because it links to the green and white, and it has a yellow kicker, so it links to the primary card. So if your kicker color happens to be the color of the card, only of the card you're in the chain, though. So if I start this chain, and later Aaron adds a card that is primary color red, the very card ahead of you, if you link to it, if your kicker happens to be the same color as the primary card you just chained with, even if it's your own card, you get the kicker bonus.
Okay.
Kicker resolves right when the card itself resolves in the chain. And then some chain or kicker text has the word feed followed by an action. Feed allows you to repeat that chain or kicker text by paying the price, performing the action required, listed after the word feed. So, for example, it might say, feed, discard 1 card. If you discard a card, you get to actually do that chain and kicker again. Chain or kicker. And it will be underneath the specific. So, for example, does this one have one?
No.
It doesn't. If the feed effect is up here, it means that when you resolve the chain, you can do whatever the feed says. Let's say discard a card. and then you get the chain bonus again. If it's under the kicker, and it says feed, and you're only resolving the chain, you don't get the kicker. You can't feed to get the kicker again. Yeah. It has to be something that you qualify for. And you can do this as often as long as you can, or are willing to keep paying the price. So you could discard your whole hand. If it says feed, discard 1 card, you'd be like, 1, I get that again, 1, I get that again, 1, I get that again. Yeah. Depending on what the bonus is, it might be worth it. So hopefully that makes sense. And then we move on to the claim phase after the chain phase. You claim cards in your private archives and the commons. You cannot claim exiled cards, so if we got rid of them, you're screwed, they're gone. Or from opposing archives. In order to claim a card, you spend influence. You start each of your turns with 2 points of influence. I was correct. You can earn additional influence from some card effects. You can also discard cards from your hand during your claim phase. For each card you discard, it gives you an additional point of influence. Okay. Note that discarding a starting minion in this manner does not exile the card because it was never in play. Right. Yeah. You can discard cards even if you do not intend to spend the influence earned. This is a method of discarding unwanted cards from your hand. Okay. And that you do that during the claim phase. The influence you must spend to claim a card is shown on right here, which is what we showed before. This one's 0. You can claim as many cards as you like, including multiple copies of the same card, as long as you have enough influence to pay for all of them. All cards that you claim are taken from the top of each archive, so you can claim from multiple archives. Yep. You cannot claim cards during other players' turns without a card effect. Any unused influence is lost at the end of your turn. You do not carry it over from turn to turn. And then in the cleanup phase, the last thing you do is you draw cards. If you have fewer than 5 cards in your hand, you must draw cards from your deck until you have 5 cards in your hand. After drawing cards, check your hand for wound cards. You can't do it with your previous hand. You may use 1 effect printed on 1 wound card in your hand per turn. You may not use effects of any other wound cards you have in your hand or on wound cards that you draw as a result of using the first wound effect. If you used a wound effect earlier in the turn, you cannot use another one now. So there are ways to use a wound effect earlier, and that's during your turn.
Straight up 1 per turn.
Yes. Yep. When the last face-up wound card, the reason why I have some others is you might gain wounds at the end after the last face wound-up card. Once the last face-up one, there's 40 of them, is given to a player, the game ends. Finish resolving cards in the chain or damage from attacking minions, depending on which phase it is. Keep track of any additional wounds received by using the face-down wounds cards, and then we literally stop. And it doesn't matter whose turn it is. We don't have a final round. We just stop and we count our wounds, and whoever has the least wins. That's it. I mean, it sounds more complex than it is, but what we're going to do, I'm going to shuffle my starter deck real quick, and then we're going to set up the game. Because now that you know the rules, you'll kind of have an idea of what you want for these cards, I would assume.
I have no idea.
I don't know what I want to do. It got me something to do.
He's got peanuts and soap in him.
Alright, so I will draw my 5 cards in a minute. I must shuffle these.
That's the draft deck.
That is the draft deck. That's why I have to shuffle them.
Because
I was looking at all of them while we were doing this.
Oversensitive to spice right now.
Really?
So like it was burning my mouth eating nacho cheese.
Oh, those all-dressed chips are probably gonna kill you.
But like nacho cheese Doritos, they're like the mildest thing in the.
Oh, those are just the normal nacho cheese ones.
Those are just the normal nacho cheese ones.
I thought all they sold was the spicier ones.
No, I didn't. No, they had the spicy like sweet chili ones.
Yeah.
I did not get those. I got the regular nacho cheese.
Oh.
And yeah, they're like burning my mouth, and I'm like, that's not normal.
Angie wrote, I'm sorry, Angie, I wasn't even looking at the screen. Just actually said she's got the game, and so there are 5 games. It integrates with Nightfall Martial Law, which I have that one. Nightfall Blood Country, I've got that one. Nightfall The Coldest War, I think, is that the one set in Russia, I think?
Yeah.
And then Nightfall
like
Dark Rages.
Ooh.
That sounds cool. And then Nightfall Eastern Skies. There are like 13 expansions, mostly promos. I do have some of the promo stuff.
Nice.
So there's so many choices, and you can mix the cards as much as you want.
Nice.
And so you can choose like kind of how you want to. Like you obviously want to have a draft deck, but it just there's no way this game is ever going to get old because it's so many options.
Yeah, it's kind of like Smash Up in that way.
It is. It really is.
Unless same people keep using the same cards.
No, the draft cards aren't sleeved because you never use them except for to pick your community stuff.
Yeah,
I getcha.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's telling you're drafting.
Yeah. So I didn't. You could sleeve them if you want, but I don't care if these look. It doesn't matter if these don't look so great on the edges because honestly, we only use them for this one part of the game.
Yeah, it's
don't show anybody these.
It's like if you're playing with Ashley, you always use aliens in something.
You'll know because they'll be super worn out.
That's why you take aliens to make her day, and that's so fun.
Alright, so, yep.
Because I'm a horrible person.
Zombies and aliens, that's her thing. Alright, so now what you're going to do is look at the cards. We're picking our personal archives first. So you're looking here and decide which one would kind of look good in your personal archive, put it face down in front of you, and just kind of leave it aside. Oh boy.
Well, we said there was one, and there it is.
Ah, crap. These are all good.
Is one of your cards signed?
Nope. If it has BC, that means or ML, it means I've got some of these are mixed up.
Oh, that's it.
I lent this deck out, and I really kind of regret it because they're mixed up. But essentially, I've got some expansions in here because I have martial law and the blood country, and so they didn't mark any of the cards. They did on reprints, but on the initial prints they didn't. So on the drafts, I put what they are. Yep. I'm gonna try that. And now we take these cards and pass them face down to the left.
I love the first hand.
I'm not sure if these are gonna be good for me because I've got BC in there. We'll see. We'll see.
I have no idea what I'm doing. Alright, let's see.
Slide these over a little bit so you'll be able to reach the community pile.
I'm not sure how I feel about the ones you gave me.
Some of them are pretty decent.
Yeah, a little bit.
So
it's been so long since I played.
Retaining one of these. Or two?
Yeah, you pick one, and then you got to give me the rest so I can start looking at the next set. Cause
okay.
Like 7 wonders, you pick one and pass them around.
Okay, I think I understand now. Right.
Slow down, guys. He hasn't even picked the first one yet.
Super derpy. I'm sorry. So
just put it face down in front of you. You don't want anybody to see what you chose until after. Thank you. And then you're going to do the same thing again.
Jesus.
Okay. Yep, this makes sense now. I don't know why it was not working in my brain, but it wasn't.
Your brain is burning.
My brain is burning from all the nacho cheese.
Nacho cheese.
Nacho cheese.
It's just nacho cheese.
Now, what we're going to do with the leftovers is you're going to pick a card and you're going to place it in the middle here. This is going to be the community, where everybody can get.
So we only get 2?
We get 2 for personal archive, and then we're going to end up with 4 cards for the community archive.
Oh, wait. So, hold on.
So those last 2.
These last 2 do not.
We put 1 in there.
And then the last one comes back to me.
So you put 1 in the community and then give her the rest.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Really?
Let's do that one.
Okay. I'm going to choose the one that's not as bad.
I put a nasty one in there. And then the rest come to me because we are not going to use these in this game. Thank you. And then we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we flip them up. Sorry, hang on a second. I have to.
On ours and the.
Yep, we flip everything up because we're going to actually put cards in here now. What?
I may claim an order from a target opponent's archive.
Is it a chain bonus or just straight up?
My chain.
That's your chain? Dude. Alright, so now, this might take a second. If any of the cards you have like a thing.
A thing?
What thing?
If it has a
expansion
letters on the bottom, just let me know so I'll know where to pull from.
BC.
So. Alright, hang on one second. We'll do the BCs after. We do it now. Hang on. Shadow 7. Which I think is over here. Or not. Where the heck did I put it? Maybe it is over here. Oh, it is. Okay. And then what are yours, Aaron?
Rend and Tear.
And also let me know if it's a minion or an action.
Action.
Rend and Tear.
Oh, I didn't take any.
You don't have to.
Yeah,
You can get them in the community.
Okay.
And Indigo 6.
And that's a minion, right?
Yeah.
Yep, it is.
I like his kicker effect.
And then Beth, what are yours?
Mesmeric Presence.
And that's action?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I'll get that in a second. Here you go. I said 12 cards, but there should be 7 in each of these.
And Frank and Franz Orlock.
Franz Orlock. There you go. And then Ian.
So I have for regular. I have minions. I have Lilith Lawrence.
Ooh, that's promo, I think.
I took Lady Vampires. And then I have BC Lizaveta Fortescue.
I also believe it's a promo.
Like I said, I took Lady Vampires. If they're promos.
All right, so we have Alton Hickman, who is also a minion.
Ren and Tear was a part of a combo from last game.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that.
Me and CJ had a thing where I used Ren and Tear, and he had the combo that did 1 damage to everyone.
Thank you. Hold on, spread these out a little bit.
Oh no.
Thank you.
He had Ren and Tear, I had damage everyone.
Now, if I'm understanding this correctly, all the cards that are in these piles are the same, or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. You should have 7 cards of each of these that you can buy.
That makes sense.
Awakening. There you go.
Marcus Toth.
Now, when it says I may claim an order from an opposing archive,
Blood Rage.
do I pay for it, or am I just claiming one?
You still have to claim it, yeah. So it's
These are all actions. Blood Rage.
Blood Rage.
Death Grip.
Death Grip. That's fine.
Apparently, we put a lot of actions
Evil.
in there.
That works out well.
Ghoul Summoning.
Do summoning.
Summon those
What did you do,
ghouls.
Michaels?
I chose not to put the thing in that says use the chain effect twice when you use the kicker.
Ooh.
See, yeah, me too.
I'm like, no, that's not allowed.
That's actually the one I chose. So there was one. So there was that one that I chose not to put in, and then there was also that same one was like deal 3 damage or something ridiculous to. Or no, maybe that one did get in there. I don't remember. There was one of them that was like deal 3 damage. I don't think it was. Maybe it was Death Grip. I don't know. No, it was Blood Rage.
So remember, as we play these, because there's so many different things, I don't think we need to read everything like as far as what it does right now. But when we play it, we want to make sure that the players know what we're doing, because they cannot read our cards. So draw 5 cards.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then we'll roll off to see who player 1 is. A 2 again, because me.
Well, your first one was 19 last time, so it's not 2 again.
But I finished with a 2, and I continued to finish with a 2.
You almost rolled another 2, though.
I did almost. But it didn't matter.
Whoa!
Whoa.
Roll with conviction. Holy crap.
Oh, really? Really?
Just kind of.
Let's try this way. Come on. You can do it.
5.
Alright, so that goes to. Did you roll him?
Yeah, I rolled a 19.
She rolled a 19.
Oh, I thought you rolled a 19.
No,
you rolled a
18.
I rolled an 18.
I rolled
She
a
beat me
19.
by 1.
So Beth starts the chain. Or whatever she wants to do, actually. Okay. So remember, you have 2 influence at the start of your claim phase.
Right.
So you'll want to think of that.
So, but that's after
After
the
It's
combat
after,
and
but just
the
be aware
chain.
that you have it, so that when you do other
So
stuff,
basically,
you'll
this
know what
first
you'll
round,
do.
there's no combat phase because there are no actual
Correct.
minions
Yeah.
out.
Right, so
Then
you
it
move
goes
right
to
into the chain phase.
You're right. Confused. All right, so right into the chain.
Swang is the
key to victory.
Yep.
I love India. No, I didn't have Indigo 6. He was in the middle, I think, last time. I just love that we were discussing him and I got him.
Yep.
Okay.
It's like the shield key all over again.
Then I will start with Charlotte.
Okay.
And I
The
can't
blue.
change anything else on it, so that's all I do. So do I draw the 2 cards now, or
Yeah,
do we
no,
wait?
no,
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 that's
chain.
the resolve.
Yeah.
So it's my turn to chain.
So you can
next.
chain
Yep,
on.
you can chain
I'll
on
go
blue.
ahead and I will change.
Huh.
Figure I might as well get some cards.
Yeah.
I wish.
Oh. Oh.
I'm going to do the same exact thing.
Okay. And you
So, draw 2.
Cool. Bomb.
Wow.
Cool. Okay.
Alright.
Whoops.
then when it's resolved, just put it straight up, and that's your minion.